Okay, today we're going to add my mother's recipe for pasta con vongole. Now, she would normally use smaller clams in this. These are the smallest cherry stones I could find at the Asian market. I asked them to pick out the smallest one, but you can get the really tiny clams that they usually have at the Asian market. But if you can find a place that has little necks, those are always the perfect size. And they're also a little sweeter. But these are good too. These have a nice fishy, clammy taste, especially if you like clams. Now, what you want to be careful is, you see, I soak these overnight in water. That's just so they'll actually spit the clam out. But what you're going to find is that you may have some that stayed open. Now, even when I squeeze this, I could smell it. I should have been more careful and make sure they were all closed shut. This means it probably was open when I got it, but I could even smell it now. You want to get rid of any that are not closed, you know. So there's two here that we're going to get rid of. But if you try you'll see that they might have been open and they'll close shut. That means the muscle's still working. So you want to discard any of the ones that are open, and then we're going to open these. And I'll show you how you make clam sauce. And we're going to do it without the shells. So we can actually take the clams out of the shells and make the kind of clam sauce that you get in a can of clam sauce, but obviously much better because you're making it from scratch. Okay, so I don't know if I mentioned that I put this in water and put the clams in the water in the fridge overnight. You can see the water's clear now. I dumped it all out, and it was really cruddy and grainy because all of the sand and all of the things you don't want that the clam had inside its shell, it kind of got squirted out, and it was rotated through with the nice clear clean water. And some people put salt in the water. I don't think you should. That may kill a couple of them. So just clean clear water. So now I cleaned it out, and now I'm putting it back in the clean clear water. Gonna just leave them there for a little while till this water gets cool, and it'll make it easier for us to open them. Okay, so once you've soaked them and rinsed them out a couple of times, again overnight, and then a couple of times during the day, you're going to take them out. And you can see the water's very clear, and I threw some ice in there. It's going to make it easier for them to open. So I'm just going to show you how to open one, then I'm going to open them all and show you exactly how I do it. Okay, so you see you try to open it just by putting the knife. And I use a sharp knife. I don't use a clam knife. Just be very careful because I just find it works better. So you can get right in there. Yeah, you're going to put where you're going to put the clam and the juice in a Tupperware. So don't worry if it cracks. You're not using the shell. And if you can see that there's mussels there. So you're just going to scrape that out, and you can make sure all the juice goes into a Tupperware that you're doing. Now, if you can't open it that way, then what you're going to do is you're going to wedge it open. You're going to put it right in the corner here, again, very carefully, and just wiggle it a little. Now, don't worry, you're going to get pieces of clam and everything, but you want to do this over the Tupperware so that the juice falls in the Tupperware. Okay, now you're going to open, I had a dozen clams, and I threw 2 away. Sorry if that jumped a little, but I was showing you how you're going to open them. Just wedge it like that, and then bring the knife around this way inside, and you're going to cut and make sure you're over your Tupperware when you do that, so you get all the juice. So I'll show you what they all look like once they're all opened, okay? Okay, so I've opened all the clams, discarded the clam shells, and you're wondering what this is here. I wish I had shown you how to do it, but each of these clams has a black spot, especially when you're using the larger clams like cherry stones. And I don't know what it is. It's some kind of, thing that's in there. But it's not very tasty, especially when you cook it. So you really have to go through every single clam and cut those. Now, there's still little black things in there, but you're looking for these things that look like digestive system kind of things. So you want to take that out and have. Now, you see, you're going to try to get any juice that's salvageable back into this. That's why I use a big cutting board. And we're going to put the clams back in the juice, push it around, we squeeze it out, squeeze out the juice, and then we're going to put these just in a little Pyrex dish to hold it. We're going to put this in the fridge and this in the Pyrex section. Let it sit for about an hour. And you see all that sediment that's there. That's going to settle to the bottom. And then when you pour this into the pot that you're going to be cooking the juice in, you're going to do it very, very slowly so that you don't get any of the sediment into the pot. So eventually you're going to be seeing you're going to get sediment. All the clam pieces will be picked out of there, and then you'll let gravity take all those things you don't want in the clam juice out. It's easier than sifting it, and I think more effective. Okay, the final ingredients, we have, that's 2 cloves of garlic. So you can figure a large clove for each half a dozen clams. So, 2 cloves for a dozen clams. And you notice I sliced it. It's not diced, and as usual, I'm soaking it in olive oil. Then you're going to get a third of a cup of wine and the juice of half of a lemon, and just put it like in a Pyrex or something, and put in I think that was about a half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, some salt and pepper, just, to taste. And you're just going to let that soak a little. And then the main ingredient is the curly parsley, Italian parsley. I use a lot. I like a lot of parsley. Half of it, or maybe 2/3 of it, is going to go into the cooking procedure, and then the rest is going to be sprinkled on top, along with some crushed red pepper. Just realizing, I've showed techniques of cutting garlic and onions and stuff, but parsley, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take all the stems off. So you just have the leaves. Try to get rid of all the stems. You're then going to crunch it together with your hand that I can't use, and you're going to cut it very carefully and fine. You're going to get into very fine dice, but this is going to be scrunched up against the knife. Make sure you keep your fingers clear of the knife and just have your knuckles against it. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, so you can see nice, fine, sharp. If your knife is not sharp enough, you're not going to be able to get this. You got to sharpen your knife, and even with the not the stone, the long metal thing, the steel. But anyway, we're going to take some of this, like I said, about 2/3, and put it in there with the olive oil. I'm going to leave about this much that we're going to sprinkle on the pasta. Okay, so we've taken out our clams, covered this with plastic. So there's the clams. Like I said, I squeezed the juice out, so this is just pure clams. Some people will even rinse it, but if you did it right, you don't have much juice in there. You want to try to get as much of the juice in with the juice. Okay, and then we have the juice that's been sitting for an hour, and you can see how we have all that sediment is settled to the bottom. Got to be careful when you take it out of the fridge, because if you mix it up, you're going to have to do it all over again. Okay, and there's the parsley and the garlic. So what we're going to do now, we're going to use a pan like this to cook this garlic mixture and the clam mixture. So again, I always put it in cold and turn on the heat. So you can see pretty good amount of olive oil. Again, I try to keep it to a minimum. So I'm going to simmer the garlic in here, and when it gets to a bubbling, again, like I did with the tomato sauce, we're going to bubble the garlic. Not going to let it fry. We're going to not let it brown. It's just going to get soft. It's going to take a little longer because it's sliced rather than diced. So we're going to make sure that that's nice and tender before we then throw in the liquid mixture that we have of the wine, lemon, and the herbs. Okay, so can you see how it's bubbling? But we keep turning down the heat so that it's never more bubbly than that. And you just want to keep hitting it with the spoon, maybe flipping them over a little. But basically, you're just simmering those garlic pieces in the olive oil. Might want to add a little salt and pepper here. Do that sometimes. But we're going to just keep cooking that until they're very tender. Probably about 5 minutes. I forgot to say that while you're doing that with the garlic, just as you start that, you're going to start boiling your water for the pasta. Most people use linguini for this, but it's spaghetti and clam sauce, so you might want to use spaghetti. I think I have linguini, so I think I'm going to use the linguini. So by the time this is boiling, the garlic should be ready, and we're going to have the pasta in the pot, and we'll be adding the juice mixture and the clam juice to the pan over here. Okay, so this is getting soft. You can also push down into the garlic and see that it's getting soft. You can see our water's boiling nicely now, so that's ready to get that. So what you want to do when you get to the point where you think the garlic's ready, you're going to turn up the heat. Turn up the heat. But be prepared to throw in that juice once this really starts bubbling. And remember, this is the mixture that you have. That's just lemon juice, wine, and the herbs that we added. Okay, so you see how bubbly it is, and now we can add it. It should make that exact sound. Okay, and then you're going to stir it. Turn up the heat a little. That smells so good. Okay, you're just gonna stir this. You're not, really thickening it, but you do want it to almost get to where everything's boiling. Now I'm gonna cheat a little. This is supposed to be pasta with just plain what we would call white sauce. I'm gonna throw in the linguini here. It happened to have linguini. Let me pause this so I can do it. Okay, so I poured the clam juice in there. I don't know if I got it on the video showing how I left the sediment, but basically you're going to leave the sediment as you're pouring it very slowly and carefully in. So you can see this is all the sediment that I left as I was pouring off the top of the juice. And turn down the heat a bit. Stir your spaghetti. Stir this a little. Okay, so now this is the clam juice, the lemon juice, and the wine. And you're just going to let that simmer. Don't let it boil at all. So I'm down at a 3 on this. I'd even bring it lower if I see it starting to boil. And then the reason you're using a pan like this is because you're going to take the pasta, and when you kind of take it from the pan, from this pan into this pan, you're going to take some of the water from the pasta, which is salted water, and that's going to also add flavor. What I said I'm going to do, that's a little bit of a cheat. Since I just made that delicious tomato sauce, I'm going to make this a red clam sauce, so I'm going to throw some tomato sauce in just before I add the pasta into this dish. And basically you're just waiting for the pasta to cook. So if it's 8 minutes, then it's going to be 8 minutes. You're probably wondering, where's the clams? We're going to get to that, don't worry. Okay, so just want you to see this is not boiling, it's not doing anything. You're just getting a little steam off of it. You don't want to cook off too much of the juice, but you just want to keep it warm. And if you're going to add tomato sauce to make it a red sauce, this would be the time to do it. Just about a tablespoon. Mix it in here. Get it blended in one section, and then do it throughout. Add as much as you think you want to redden it. It's about as red as I would get it. And you can see we have the clams here. Now what we're going to do with the clams, I love raw clams. And if you love raw clams, what you want is you don't want to cook the clams too much. You're basically not going to cook them at all. You're going to turn the heat off of this, put the clams in there, and just mix them around. And this way they won't be chewy. Again, if you cook them, if you put them in here and you turn this up and you cook the clams, you really just want to blanch them. You're going to see they're very raw here, but they will turn whiter, and that's kind of how you know. And remember, you're going to put this in here too, and that's going to be heat on it. That's going to be more than enough to cook the clams. So when you're cooking the pasta, it's going to tell you al dente, regular, or soft. You want to cook it al dente. And people say, is it 9 minutes, 10 minutes? The only way you could ever really tell is taste it. So I was the taster at our house. My mother would give me it, and I would say 18 seconds, or 22 seconds, or 37 seconds, and I would know exactly when it would be ready. Anyway, this is ready. So we're going to turn off the heat. And we're also going to turn off the heat here. This is basically, we've just been keeping this warm. And we're going to get the clams in another hand and just pour them in there. Or just like that. Just like that. And stir around. Oh, by the way, I added another tablespoon of sauce. So that's the timer. In case I needed it. See, the timer was wrong. I needed to turn it off before the timer. See how the clams are turning a little? You can see they're cooking as much as they need to cook. And then, of course, we're going to even increase that by getting the hot water from here, throwing it into the pan. Don't make a mess like I do. Oh, this stove is such a disaster. Been cooking too much. All right. I made a dozen clams just for me, and it's the pasta is for one person. But you certainly could have had twice as much pasta for the amount of clams we did. And like I said, we were short a couple that were bad. So we did. So now we're going to turn up the heat again, just for a second. Just to mix this up. Now, okay, now I know you're going to ask, when do you put in the cheese? Please do not put cheese, even if you're making it with tomato sauce, do not put cheese in your spaghetti linguini with clams. If you do it, please don't do it in front of an Italian. All right, when Carrie and I were in, where were we? We were in Florence, right, in a restaurant right at the Arno River. The Ponte Vecchio was behind us, and she ordered macaroni with clam sauce, and she asked for cheese, and the waiter said, American, and she was always offended by that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and we're just going to dump it in the bowl with all this juice and everything. So you can see there's easily enough juice here for twice as much spaghetti, but this smells so good. Now, you could put the hot pepper flakes in here now and the parsley now, but I prefer to just sprinkle it right on top of once it's in the bowl. Okay, so again, you don't want to overcook those clams, but you want to make sure they are cooked, and this looks just perfect. So we're going to get this and pour it in my bowl. Perfect. Let's scrape some of the remnants of that in there, and I'll be back with you in a minute. I can't begin to tell you how delicious this smells. And it came out perfectly, of course. So we're going to get our pepper flakes, put a little of that. Where you would do cheese on other things, you're going to put pepper flakes. Don't overdo it. I like pepper. And then we're going to get our fresh Italian parsley. Sprinkle that. Oh, doesn't that look beautiful? So colorful, especially with the red from the tomato sauce. Of course, you're going to pour yourself a glass of wine. White wine from Italy. And yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, so poured myself a glass of white wine, the red pepper, the parsley flakes, and then you might want to put a little black pepper on it too. I prefer not, but that's something you would add. And enjoy.